There we go.
There we go. So we got Rich Lindgren in. Just want to pay the bills real quick. This is Road All American episode 17. Thank you guys for following me on the journey. This episode is powered by Lion Energy. And as you guys can see, I've been charging my batteries this week from the Safari. Fantastic situation over here at the Days Inn with bad outlets. So make sure you guys check them out, lionenergy.com, and check out the Safari. And to let you guys know, I'm running the UT 1300s for my trolling motor. Also brought to you by ROKFORM. They provide the mounts for me to do this podcast, as well as the mounts for my bass boat. So make sure you check out ROKFORM and use code DMiller25 to get 25% off your order. Thanks. So, Rich, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Not so much, or not too bad. How are you? How's the sound? How's everything?
It's good. It's good.
Cool.
Sound good?
Thought I would, beautiful day here in Minnesota. Thought I would just sit in the Camus and do it out here in case we wanted to pick up some baits or some rods or look around. Or...
It's started pouring in here. But I typically do this from the truck because I'm on the
Sure.
road all American, so it's I typically do it from the truck, but I guess the hotel room's okay for today because the rain, be hearing it dinging off the windshield. But yeah, so Rich is a Team Dobbins guy, just like I am. What do you think about the merger thing?
Yeah, the acquisition.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I can tell, it's pretty much, business as usual. They have a little more resources, things like that. Gary's still very much involved. When I call the shop, still Bryce answering the phone, right? So I haven't seen any downside yet. I mean, time will tell. I mean, I haven't heard anything. Like, I think people are still getting their warranties. People are still getting their rods.
Yeah.
I mean, all the rods they have now, Gary purchased 6 months or 12 months ago, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like so. But everything I've heard, it's just business as usual. They got a bigger backer behind them now, so they can probably weather the storm, make bigger orders, get better pricing. So yeah, time will tell, but no downside yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be adopted by Gary and inherit the company. That's what
Yeah, sure.
the no, it's crazy because like I've been fishing Dobbins since they came out. Since Tackle Tour, shout out to Tackle Tour. I'm a fan of their website. But since they introduced them, I've been running Dobbins since like the OGs, and it's kind of weird. Like the vibe is crazy. Like I don't know how to explain it. I'm such a fan, and like I'm just really happy to have been a part of the journey for them as well. It's been great, and Gary, just a disclaimer: Gary will be on the Road to All American this Saturday. Again, he was on last year, so I'm interested in hearing his take on a few things. But yeah, so we'll come back to rods later. But
Sure.
what's going on with you right now? What are you fishing this year?
Well, I'm only fishing I'm only fishing a handful of tournaments. Yeah. So I fished the Bass Nation qualifier in lacrosse back in May. Made the top 20, qualified for the Bass Nation Nationals this fall in Grand Lake, so that's on the list now. Other than that, I'm fishing the three Division III Bassmaster Opens, or the Northern Divisions, coming up here. And then I plan to fish like our Bass Nation TOC, which is on Vermilion in August. So I basically have Leech coming up here, Lake St. Clair coming up in just a couple weeks. I leave on, I think, July 5th to head to Lake St. Clair. Super stoked for that, right? That's I've never been there, but definitely a bucket list lake. Pumped. I think that's honestly, I was just talking to a buddy. I mean, I think as a guy that's not from there, local advantage doesn't play. You don't necessarily have to be the world's greatest smallmouth fisherman. Not saying that I don't know how to catch smallmouth, but like I feel like Lake St. Clair guy, if you land on them and you find the right ones, anybody can win there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm really looking forward to that. And it should just be a blast of a week, right? The fishing is typically crazy good there. And then August, we roll to Leech. which will be the first time there's ever like a major tournament on Leech Lake. So that'll be really cool to be part of that and see how it definitely reacts to 200 boats with a week of pressure, largemouth, smallmouth, that kind of stuff. And then we end in lacrosse in September, which I've done pretty well there, and I've done well there that time of year. So I'm actually looking forward to that. Now that'll be really interesting because they've got close to record high water this summer with all the rains we have right now. So what is that going to do to the vegetation, and where will the water be in September, and what will that do to the fish and the bait when the water's been up this high, this long, and then comes back, and how fast will it come back, that kind of stuff. So that'll be a wrinkle into things, and may take some of the local advantage even further out of play. It may put it in their hands, but it could shake things up for that tournament as well.
Gotcha. Now, St. Clair, that's like a deal where like the smallmouth just roam. That's all they do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're following bait most of the time, So yeah, it's little patches of grass and bald spots and sandy spots and current and sand ridges and things like that. And I think you need to find as many areas or schools of 3.5 to 4.5 pound smallmouth as you can, and then you got to try to do your best to stay with them during the tournament and capitalize and execute, right? Like execution will be a big thing, because like if you get in the right areas, if you put them in the boat, you're going to do well. But if you start dropping them, then that'll be a problem.
Gotcha. It sounds like it would fish kind of like the northern third of Cayuga, where it's like one big flat.
Sure. Might be.
Do they spray St. Clair at all?
I don't think so. I mean, from my understanding, the grass out there is very much like, sand grass, stuff that looks like eel grass. It only grows a little bit up off the bottom, so it's kind of short. So I don't think it really affects any recreation or anything like that. So not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just wrapped up the Cash and Derb. They do a team open up here on Oneida, and I got the BFL this Saturday, a couple days. This lake got pounded. The next, I believe it's Champlain for Toyota, doing the northern Toyotas and the northeast BFLs, and that's basically all I'm doing this year. Then a couple like random opens, like this one buddy tournament. Yeah, so St. Clair, I've watched a couple of the elite events that were there. Looks like a fun lake.
Yeah, I mean the opens have been there, the BPTs, the invitationals, the elites. Like it's been a popular spot over the years, and it always seems to put out, whether they fish it in June or they fish it in October. The weights are big, and almost everybody catches a limit. And
nice.
Oh, we got Easton Fothergill peeking in on the live. He's trying to get the one up on the Northern Opens. He's already looking. Congratulations to Easton. Just won a Bassmaster Open on Lake Eufaula. So he's already punched his ticket to the 2025 Classic, and he is leading the points for the EQs. So
nice. Congrats, man.
He'd be a good guy to have on your series when you start to look next section of guests. Look up Easton Fothergill. He's an up and comer, and he's going to be a problem for the guys on the elites in the next year or so.
Dope. Yeah, I'll definitely hit him up. Easton, be on the lookout for the invite. Yeah. So talk to us about your podcast, because I'm a fan. Like I just leisurely watch. I don't really watch it when you do it on YouTube. You seem to interact more with guys on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Interaction is more prominent. But you stream it also to Instagram. So like for me, I do this live on Instagram, so we can have the interaction with the followers, and then off to Spotify it goes. So talk to us about your podcast.
Yeah, honestly, it's basically a YouTube live stream, right? It's really there for the YouTube community, and having guests on, talking with the crew, chatting, and then I do simulcast it to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, just to get a little more reach. It does go out on an MP3 platform as well, but I typically try to do Wednesday nights a little later. So like tonight, Baxter the Bateman and I are jumping on at 8:30. We'll be on both of our YouTube channels. Tonight we'll probably talk about the Opens that just happened. We'll probably talk about the upcoming Smith Lake. We'll probably talk about the Kroby Krieger DQ, talk about whether Jacob Wheeler's really human or not, or is he a bass fishing alien robot? Things like that. Or whatever the chat. A lot of times it's wherever the chat takes us. But also have a lot of good guests on. Like I've had Gary Dobbins on. I've had Easton on. Elite pros, BPT pros, local guys, swim bait experts. A lot of different things. Just try to some of the popular guests that everybody has on. And other times I try to come up with some kind of unique guests and things that are a little different.
Yeah. What's your link? Plug your YouTube.
Yeah, everything's Hellabass. So you can click on my profile, follow me on Instagram if you want. It's the same thing on YouTube as well. It's just Hellabass. Search it up. Whatever your poison is, if you're a Facebook, a YouTube, Instagram person, I try to be on all of those. But the most fun and most interactions on YouTube for sure. And then I do a lot of tournament videos and tip videos and electronics videos, just about anything you can think of fishing related on YouTube.
Yeah, like a one-stop shop. So that would lead us to a segment of the podcast. So a lot of the followers I have are like blue-collar guys. They're not tournament anglers at all. They might have 3, 4 kids, maybe 5. Shout out MCS. But there's guys that, they don't have time to go fishing. So it might be once a month, and they want to make the most of that time. What bait have you been using over the past couple of years, the past season, like the go-to bait that is like sure to catch them for Hellabass?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I can relate, right? Like I put out a lot of content and talk a lot fishing and posting all the time, but in the reality, I've got 2 teenage girls in high school sports that like my time is precious. I probably get out 5, 6 times a month. Like, so it's not like I'm fishing, every day. So I can totally relate. For me, like this time of year, especially now, we're kind of post-spawn for most people. If you just want to get bit, it's hard to pass up a wacky rig Senko, right? Like our dinger or a sticko or whatever you want to throw. If you're fishing shallow around docks, vegetation, inside grass lines, holes in the grass, like it's hard to beat that. Like over the years, a wacky rig spooled up on like a Dobbins 703, like, ooh, that's not no zipper. Right. Like this setup, right? Like it is not my most expensive Dobbins by any means, right? This is a Fury rod. It's $120 on $99 Fuego. Now, for some people, that is expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, for bass fishing combos, we're talking about a $220 combo. So this is reasonable. I think it's a great tournament or recreation outfit. But I probably caught more bass on this setup than most of my other ones. When it comes down to needing to get in a bite or taking a kid out or taking a buddy out and just getting them a fish, like I'm going to probably hand them this rod. I can switch the handle side depending on how they're used to, right? But this 703, usually throw like a number 1 or number 2, like Nico style, whether it's a VMC or a Mustad Titan X or whatever. And then typically a 5-inch dinger, Senko, Sticko. And the one thing I like to do is put these little clear bands on there, which make them last longer. So like that's an Arsenal wacky band right there. And I just hook right through that. That way I keep my worm still horizontal. This is a little Max Sense, a little stiff, but it keeps the bait on there. You can't really see it unless you're really looking close. I don't think it really affects the bites, but it definitely get 5, 6, 7, 10 fish instead of 1 or 2 per worm, which in a tournament situation or a fun situation, I don't want to be burning through a ton of extra worms, and I don't want to waste my time digging that compartment looking for a worm when I can just be casting. Typically spool that up with 30-pound braid. This is the one rod that I like a moss green or a natural colored braid, because there are times that either I'll get fed up with the leader or I'll be in, dirty water or just throwing in heavy enough cover that I won't want the leader. And so I want a natural colored braid so that if I want to tie to the hook, I can. Whereas almost all my finesse rods that I fish deep almost always have a fluorocarbon leader, and they'll have like a bright white, bright pink, bright green type. So that's kind of the setup, probably one of the main ones that gets bit all the time. What else was out here? I would say you can't go wrong with a chatterpiece, right?
Yep.
Like the chatterbait. I used to be more of a 3/8 ounce guy. I would say I kind of went more to half. I think it's a little more versatile. I can control that with my reel speed. I think this one is one of the new XPS chatter bombs. It's okay. Definitely a jackhammer is hard to beat. Actually, the clip opened up on this one, so that may be a knock against the chatter bomb from XPS.
Wah, wah.
But good thing I saw that before I hooked something. Anyways, but I will say the jackhammer is good. I've had really good luck with the Z-Man, or was it the custom? I think that's a Tackle Warehouse exclusive. That's like a $8, $9, $10 chatterbait. That's pretty good. And then the other one that just came out at ICAST last year that I have been fishing quite a bit and had quite a bit of success is the Evo. I don't know if you tried the Evo. This might be one of the Evos here. Yeah, here's an Evo that's a little beat up because it got chewed on in that first tournament at in lacrosse. But it's got eyes on it. It's got the weight printed on it, so you can see it's stamped 1/2 ounce, 3/8 ounce. It's got a double keeper. It's got, the molded and the wire. It's got a great hook on it. Painted blades. So like, if you're a person that likes jackhammer, like you have jackhammer taste, but Evo budget, this is a good bait. I've had really good success with this. So, but a green pumpkin, a black and blue, something like that. A lot of times I'm fishing that. I like a menace rub or this Arsenal tactical minnow, which it looks like a little swim bait, but this paddle tail is so small that it really doesn't like have any drag. And my belief on chatterbaits is that when it comes to trailers, less is more. I want as little drag as possible because the more drag, the less head movement and less hunting you're going to see out of that bait. Now, there may be times you want your bait to track super true, and that's what the fish want. But if you want that erratic hunting action, I like something with almost no tail or a straight tail, like this tactical minnow.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, and this is, a 1/2 ounce. So you can fish it from 1 foot to 10 foot and cover a lot of water.
So I recommended last year. Over the past couple of years, I ran the Mojo rig, the micro finesse version of the Carolina rig, because
Absolutely.
not that I was like won tournaments with it, but it put fish in the boat, especially down on like James River, Potomac, Chesapeake Bay, in those tidal systems. It's something you could flutter through the grass, do a 3/16 ounce weight, little worm hook. I do like a finesse worm, 5 to 6 inches in length, and it's definitely a fish catcher. But I've been recommending it, and I haven't really been throwing it this year, so I switched to the chatterbait or bladed jig, however you want to call it, as like a go-to search bait that will put fish in the boat. I don't have one in front of me, but the same breath as Rich, a swim bait trailer of any sorts kind of works. 3.8 to 4.3 inches in length. What I do, I use a lot of the no affiliation with them, but Kitech 3.8 on like a 3/8 ounce, especially if you're fishing like sub 5 feet of water. And I cut the tail off. Gives it more of a fishier swimming action. And if you do deflect off something, it will be more erratic, like before it starts tracking again. And I found that definitely triggers bites when you're deflecting off of things and ripping it through grass and whatnot. And with that tail kicking too, leaving the boot on, so to speak, I feel like I get less bites. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a confidence thing, but I think guys just wacky rig Senko or stick bait, stick worm, and a bladed jig, and you should be on your way to catching fish.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Mojo as well. Like you, I've gotten away from it lately, but that was a go-to staple for me. 3/16, like Pega 3/16, lead or tungsten sinker. Fish it on 8 to 12 pound line, either a light casting rod or a spinning rod. It's kind of up to you. And, a little centipede, a little trick worm, a little fluke, A baby ring fry was one of my absolute favorite baits to put on a Mojo rig. A little 2-aught light wire EWG. It's a bite getter. It's good, and it comes through rocks. Surprisingly good. It's good around grass. Catches smallies, catches largies, catches spots. Like it's a bite getter. It's not the greatest for covering a lot of water, but if you're in an area that you're pretty sure there's fish, the Mojo will typically get a bite.
Let's check the chat real quick. Devin said drop shot. Steve Speedworm. I'll hit you up, Steve. Rob Nakatomi joined. Sup, Rob? Chatterbomb needs a new clip and new skirt right out of the box. I never realized how small the tail is on that tactical minnow.
Yeah, that's that little guy right there. I definitely, yeah, this clip opened up. I have not had that problem with the Evos. So, and the Evos are hand tied. I don't know if the Chatterbombs are. They're a rubber collar. So,
yeah, Weensy,
yeah.
The boot tail adds resistance you don't want. Brian, I think Hellabass has a video on the Mojo rig. Uh-oh.
If I do, I might have forgotten about it already. I've made so many videos.
Uh-oh. We're going to have to repost that. No, because, like, I don't think everybody realizes, like, how many people follow us, like, guys that tournament fish, regardless what level you're at or what tour or division or what it – your followers are people who don't fish tournaments. And they're coming to us to learn, you know, so give them the information. Get them out there fishing, especially if they got kids and they want to get their kids out there catching. No, I did well in my act for fish. I did well with straight tail minnows on the back of the bladed jig this spring. I found one that I think outdoes them all, but ain't saying. Okay, then. Alrighty, then. All right, let's talk. Let's get into it. We're Dobbins guys. What's your top 5 Dobbins rods?
Like favorites to fish, the ones that catch. Like, what's our criteria for top 5?
All right, let's make it interesting. Your favorite, based on your favorite techniques.
Sure. I will say, like, this rod has been in my hand a lot lately, and it's one that's growing on me quite a bit. Now, this rod I have loved for quite some time, but this technique here is throwing this Outcast chicken jig, like a 3/4 ounce chicken jig. So I've got this on a Dobbins 745. Now, you can tell I've had this rod for a minute because it's probably been close to 10 years since the graphics looked like this on this rod. So I've got rods that are probably almost as old as my youngest child. She's 14. But this, so I like this as a jig rod, flipping up to maybe half, 3/4 ounce, football jig, lots of things. But lately, throwing this big chicken jig for post spawn when the fish are first coming offshore on these grass lakes up where I am. You can find those deeper bluegill beds, and where you got that clean spot with some good coontail or milfoil or cabbage, whatever it is coming up, and you throw it out and count this thing down, kind of like you're talking about the kite. Think of this as like a giant 5-inch fluffy K-Tech. Count it down, it falls, even though it's 3/4 ounce, it falls really slow because this is so much resistance in this hair. And it just undulates, and it's got an actual like chicken feather in the middle. But count it down. If you don't have live scope, that's fine. You just wait till you like feel it hit the weeds or hit the bottom, then you kind of just pop it up, and then I just slow roll it in, and it just kind of slowly. I mean, it's kind of the same principle as like the Marabou smallmouth jig,
Yeah.
But you're throwing a big one for largemouth, imitating like a crappie or a bluegill. But bigger tackle, but you're still throwing it out, counting it down, and just floating it through the water column, and they'll come unglued. If you have live scope, it's nice to be able to track it so you can see it's so that you can get your so you can see how much it's coming up. You have to reel it pretty slow to keep it down. It wants to come up really easy, but when they eat it, they freaking smoke it. But this rod has been one of my favorites for a long time. Whether it's jig fishing, football jigs, this chicken jig, throwing small swim baits, the 745 is a really dynamite rod.
What test you throwing on that?
This has probably got like 18 or 20 on it right now with an old school crown arc.
Attaboy.
I will say that if you don't have extreme budget, that the Champion XP 744, I feel fishes almost the same as the Extreme 745. So that jig rod special in the XP, I would say is like a close counterpart to this, and I kind of see them almost as interchangeable. And if I didn't already have these and I was just buying more, I'd probably just buy more of the jig special champion rods. Another fun one to fish.
I like the other jig special one, the 610. It's a fun rod.
Okay, yeah. I don't really like the shorter rods, but yeah, I know people that like that. I skip with like a 705, but I know a lot of people love like that 610 for skipping and stuff. So I don't go, I mean, whenever I can throw a frog, I'm a happy guy. So for me, it's the XP 735 that I frog with most of the time. I know a lot of guys like the 736, but I don't have a problem getting fish out of real thick vegetation, rice mats, river stuff up here. The 50 to 65 pound braid. I like this Daiwa coastal reel. It's a little bit beefier. It's a 150 size reel, so it's got better line capacity. It's got a little bit bigger handle. It's just got like the gears a little more inshore saltwater, so I think it's just a little tougher. Love this, and it just looks super sweet on the champion rod. Like look good, feel good, fish good, right? So right now it's got a Jackal Kara, and that's just something I've been playing with. But normally for me, it's like a Spro is one of my go-tos. There's a couple other that I play with, but yeah, 50 to 65 pound, 7-1, Dobbins 735. And I've frogged with the Sierra 735. So I think, whatever your budget is, any of the 735s make a pretty good frog rod. That's two.
I'm interested.
This is a pretty. What's that?
Interested in the next three because you kind of like surprised me with the chicken jig rod.
Yeah. So here's another one. This rod has really come on for me as of late. It's the XP 764. So I will throw the chicken on this. I will throw. What I throw a lot on it is actually like mag graphs. This is the 6-inch Zell Dangerous. Another sleeper 6-inch swim bait is the Spro Megalojohn that I've been starting to use this year. Works pretty. You can fish it faster. It's more versatile than a mag graph. So far, this top hook Zell Dangerous to put the line through. I've caught a handful of fish on it. It sticks them. It's a pretty fun bait. It's a little heavier. This is one that's a little easier to count it down on like a weed line or something like that. But only caught a handful of fish, only used a couple times. But the 764, I will fish this with like 18 to 20 pound fluoro, and I will throw 6-inch swim baits. I'll throw chickens. You could throw a football jig on it. You could do like flipping.
That's the
3/4 ounce.
C, not the C.
764. Yeah, just the C. You could throw bigger chatterbaits on it. You could throw spinner baits on it. Like 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce spinner baits, 3/4 ounce jackhammers, bigger swim jigs. Yeah, it's kind of a nice hybrid, like dragon rod and bigger moving bait rod for me.
I don't think I've ever fished that rod.
I have now got two of them. I started with one, now I have two. Let's see here. I mean, you got to have some finesse in your life. So I don't have my favorite spinning rod because I actually had to send it in because I broke the tip off it. It was more my fault jamming it in a rod locker than anything.
Another OG logo.
Yeah, this is 702, right? That thing is old. So this is pre-XP 702. So this is probably my second favorite spinning rod. My favorite spinning rod is the Champion Extreme 742. Almost always have a drop shot on that. That one is cut up this long and sent back for warranty because I broke the tip off it. But to me, any 2-power Dobbins rod is great for drop shot, Ned, anything that's small 2.8s, 3.3s, small light wire exposed hook. shaking a minnow. This has got a little core tackle hover rig on it, which is a sneaky little rig. But any of that light wire exposed, if I'm going to fish, a shaky head, a tube, something a little bigger, hook or Texas rig, then I go to a 3-power Dobbins rod typically for a spinning rod for my finesse. But the finesse has just become kind of a necessary, whether you love them or hate them, you
Unnecessary
just
evil.
and yeah, as a tournament angler or somebody that cares whether they get bites or not when they go fishing, you got to have a spinning rod. Unless you're a BFS fanatic, I don't really buy into the BFS craze. Not really me.
So 702, cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
The only one that I don't feel is like the other ones is the Caden. So it's much faster.
The 712.
Yeah. Some much faster stick. My
little bit.
buddy Matt uses that one for Ned rig. There you go.
It's got a net on it. I guess the other thing, just circling back to the chatterbait, right? Because I pretty much don't fish a tournament without a chatterbait on the deck. So I am not a glass guy. I'm not a big 735 CB, 736 CB glass. I like the Sierra Series 734C for my chatterbaits. Sierra. So the Sierra has a slightly more moderate, slower action than the Champions or the Cadence. So this 734 is a really good spinnerbait, chatterbait rod. And I throw it with mono, back to those guys that, hey, I only fish a couple times a month. I need to be spending $30 on a spool of line. Get yourself some big game or something like that. Put 17-pound, 14-pound, 15-pound mono. I mean, this is actually got a SLX XT on there, 7-1, catches them. And, everybody's mechanic is a little bit different. This works really for me. I have a lot of people that have bought this rod at my recommendation and love it. Now, and because I feel like I fish up north, so 95% of the time I'm chatterbaiting around grass. And I feel like I need to be able to feel when there's grass on my chatterbait.
Yeah.
And to me, when I fish that glass rod, personally, with fluoro or mono, I don't feel it. And I don't like the way it responds for me. So for me, I like a moderate action graphite rod for my chatterbait and spinnerbaits.
I think the glass rod is more of a better deal if you're running straight braid.
Mm-hmm. For
I
sure, I can see that.
Weatherall on last year, and he was talking about the bladed jig, and he
having a nice season, nice sophomore season.
Yeah,
Weatherall is.
Shout out Alex.
He
put me on to something. He kind of let something out of the bag because I, for the longest, kind of stuck with 15-pound fluoro. So, on my rod, which is one of my top 5, I'll get into my top 5. So, my favorite rod, period, hands down, is a Champion 734. I have a bunch of them. I have 4 or 5 different things tied on at any given moment, whether it's a buzz bait, a whopper plopper, bladed jig, spinner bait, you name it. And it's a great backup tool too. Like if you have a bird's nest or something on your jig rod or something, you can cut your jig off, tie it on one of those, and you're good to go. But anyhow, back to Alex. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, 734 is normally has a swim jig tied on for me, but it is, and the 734 Sierra, so I've got one Champ, one Sierra, 734. They're both of them are do-it-all rods. And, you can throw anything from a 5-inch bull shad to a half-ounce spinnerbait to a buzz bait to a walking bait to a, like you said, if any of your other specialty rods go down, it can probably pretty much do it if you need to as a backup.
Exactly. With Alex, he was saying he runs 20 to 25-pound fluoro for bladed jigs. And I was like, really? So I experimented this year, and guess what? I don't drop as many fish because that was the one issue I have. I throw a jackhammer a lot. I and it's always like a 5 during a tournament that comes off. It's never like a dink in practice or something, you know. So I can't have that. So I've experimented this year, and I've noticed a tremendous difference. I think he's definitely 100% spot on with the lack of stretch in the floral. So I get to keep using the rod I like, which gives a lot of feedback of what the bait's doing. If you catch a strand of grass, even subtle bites too, because I've like laid into fish and didn't even like, you just kind of feel the blade slowly stop moving, and you lay into them, and sure as hell it was a fish. Because like, I don't know, I think up here in the Northeast, there's definitely a lot more pressure, so fish are more like just mouthing the bait versus like knock the rod out of your hands type of deal.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, you throw a chatterbait, it's like they'd never seen it before. It's just now it's like,
yeah, exactly. So you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be able to detect the bite, and I think the 734 takes the cake for me. I run a 7-to-1 ratio, and now I've switched to 20-pound fluoro, and I've been happy with it. I did try the 736 on Bryce's recommendation. I didn't like it that much. No offense.
yeah.
It's just,
And it's a lot of it's personal preference and mechanics. So like what works for Dave, what works for me, what works for anglers in the chat can be different. And like you said, so we're almost the same, right? You're 734 champ, I'm 734 Sierra. I like just a little more give in my rod when I give it to them. They both have pretty much the same backbone once you get all the way into them. And your hook set's not the same as my hook set. You're right, like your line setup, all that. So I mean, like you just got to find something that works for you. If what you have works for you now, you're not losing fish, keep it. If you are one of those people that's struggling with like, hey, I'm only catching like 70% of my chatterbait fish, then you might want to say, hey, listen to what Dave and Rich are saying, maybe tweak something, line or rod, and see if you can get that percentage up. Because there is no one truth for everyone. And that comes down to like chatterbaits, whether you should straight shank versus EWG versus ring DWG versus snell knot versus not, like all of that stuff. There's so much people that don't realize in mechanics and preference that what works for Seth Fighter may or may not work for me, may not work for Brian in the chat, may not work for Frank who's checking in from Canada in the chat. Like mechanics are a big thing, and you got to tailor your tackle to your mechanics.
exactly. I think the another issue too is a lot of guys they see the price of the jackhammer, and they're like, I ain't paying that, like $18 a pop or whatever they're charging now, and they go the DIY route, and I'm telling you, that split ring connecting the blade to the jig head, no bueno. It's
I mean, it does catch some fish, but it's not as good.
no, you're not. And the other thing I don't like about that is when you start reeling,
You
yeah, you gotta like give it a push, like take the training wheels, just
gotta pop it, you gotta snap it to get it to
start turning or the blade kicking. All right, so my number one is a DC 734. We have one in common for second place. DC 735 for frogging. I love it. Also, if you're close range pitching, you're like up pitching Texas rig up.
Great jig rod. It's great. Beaver rod. Yep.
Fishing wood. Also, I had a Co running the 735, the big like 5/8 ounce shaky head on that rod with like a 7-inch worm, straight tail worm, and he caught him. I never thought about doing that. Jumbo shaky head, but that's another option. But yeah, I like frogging. I think everybody does. But 735 is a fantastic rod. My third favorite rod, one of my hate it and love it at the same time techniques, is Carolina rig. I fish it different than any other bait I throw, and a lot of people that like may come on the boat as a or something that are throwing a Carolina rig, they're definitely throwing it different than me. I do a 3/4 ounce weight no matter what depth I'm fishing, even if I'm drifting, and I'll go up from there if needed. But I'll fish it in 5 feet of water and burn it like a square bill. Adjust the leader length.
Like a biffle head almost.
Yeah, you could. And you know what? It's the you're talking about the football, the wobble head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're just kind of like boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you got they react like, what is that? And then here comes a lizard or speed crawl or something come flying by their face and they grab it. You get reaction bites out of it. I put a lot of fish in the boat over the years burning that thing. DX 744. So I go a little bit lighter. And I know some guys like a really long rod for Carolina rig. I know some guys who just like a 7-foot medium heavy and call it a day.
Yeah.
I like something in between. The 744 is the, at the time when I fell in love with the rod, it was before pre-ecstasy. So it's very sensitive. You can detect everything. Like you can know if it's a stick, a log, pebbles, a big rock, weeds. Like you can feel everything on the bottom with that rod. I do something kind of different than a lot of people too. Mainline 16-pound fluoro. I do use a shallow spool reel, which might not make sense. It's a HLC from Daiwa. And I do 20-pound. I always start off with 20-pound mono as the leader material. I think there's something to it with it floating, even if you're not talking apples, oranges, because it's, 3 feet of line, 2 to 3 feet of line. You're not talking like main line where it's like sagging and bowing the line. But I think there's something to using the thicker mono and having the bait kind of flutter in the water column. I definitely think it helps. But yeah, the DX 744 for Carolina rig and wobble heads. I do like to throw a wobble head.
Yeah, I throw the 745 for Carolina rig. Same rod I throw chickens and football jigs, but 764 makes a good Carolina rig rod as well. I do the same thing. I do like typically floral mainline and then a mono leader, but I typically go lighter mono just for the fact that if I hang my bait, I want to break my leader and not my main line.
Well, up here, like in the Northeast, like all the lakes I'm throwing it for the most part, there's a lot of zebra mussels too. Sure. So the 16-pound fluoro, I use a barrel weight. I don't use a like a regular like flipping weight or something that some people use. I use a barrel weight. It helps like pop free a lot better if you get snagged. So I never really have issues where my main line is frayed. It's always the leader. So that's another reason why I always start with 20-pound and then kind of like go up or down as needed type of thing. But typically it's not like a game changer. And I use like JDM line, Sunline, Supernatural. It's a very small diameter to begin with. So 20 pounds Super Nat is probably like 14 Suffolk or Berkeley or something. It's not so much smaller diameter. So yeah, that's my number 3.
Or Kevin checking in. It's that K&K, right?
What's going on, guys? The number 4, I would say this is funny because it's like a tie. DX 795 and DC 765. Shout out Rich Dobbins, Gary's son, because he put me onto the 795 because that's his favorite rod in the world, I think. But the DX 795 is a fantastic rod. Until I started running the DC 765. I don't know what it is. I think the 795 is better if you're flipping, like if you're doing like the pull the line, dropping into pockets, like grabbing the line with your free hand and you're doing that, I think the extra length helps with that. But if I'm just pitching, the shorter rod, it kind of like balances a little bit better for me. But I'll still use the 795. It just depends on what the situation is calling for. But the DC 765 flip is a fantastic flipping stick. I love it. I could flip if I was joking with somebody the other day. If I ever got stuck in purgatory, I hope it's like along a never-ending weed line. Just to sit there all day and just flip outside weed edge all day. But yeah, I run I typically 5/8 to 3/4 ounce, depending. Like Candlewood, Home Lake in Connecticut, back when it had grass before they destroyed the lake. For those who don't know, Candlewood, the state decided it was okay to put 7,000 grass carp in a lake, in a pond, compared to fit 100 Candlewoods inside of Champlain. It's that small. So 7,000 carp did a lot of damage. Anyhow, back when there was grass there, you'd be flipping grass that's 15 feet, 16 feet deep outside edge, even down to like 17, because they do a drawdown in winter. So 3/4 on a place like Candlewood back when it had grass. But if I'm on the Potomac or somewhere, I'm just flipping 2-3 feet, 4 feet. I usually drop down like 5/8, maybe a half. I wouldn't punch with the.
Are you braid or fluoro on
I
765 when you're
have
flipping?
2 rigged up. I have one with braid and one with fluoro. I run one with 20 to 25 pound fluoro, depends on zebra mussels, and braid if I'm flipping mainly grass and I'm not worried about zebra mussels. Because there's times I'm flipping, it could be on a wood bite, and I'm flipping laydowns and docks and pilings and stuff. It's braid. I don't know. I kind of just grab the fluoro rod. But if it's like grass, for the most part, it's braid. And then an honorable mention would be the 766. If I go to like an ounce and a 1/4 ounce and a half, I go to the 766. So yeah, 765 flip, champion series. That's my number 4. And number 5, I would say, is upsetting, but he doesn't make it anymore. Champion Extreme 704 SF.
Split handle. Okay, spinning rod. All right.
Yeah, the 704. That is like the cat's meow for like heavier finesse fishing. Like when you're throwing, you got to do like a 15-pound leader or something. But you're throwing like a little Nico rig around docks, and there's tons of zebra mussels and whatnot. Because you hear it a lot. Like even on Champlain, here on Oneida, guys flip docks. Oh, I broke like 7 off today. Like you're running 8-pound leader, and you're flipping heavy zebra mussel infested water, like. So I'll go up to like 15, 20-pound leader, like.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer when the situation calls for it. But also the rod is a killer swim bait rod. Like if you're throwing like a 3/16 ounce to I don't know if I'd go, but like 3/8, 3/16 to 3/8 with a 3.3 to a 3.8 swim bait, and you're just like slow rolling them on the bottom. That's a great rod for it. If you're into throwing swim baits on spinning gear. But yeah, I wish he did. I only have one, and there's no more out there. So, yeah, Dobbins Champion Extreme 704 SF is a spinning rod. It's a super sensitive rod. It has a ton of backbone. You can horse fish with it. You don't be afraid to put that rod to work, even though it's a spinning rod. Because there's a lot of guys too that like in Connecticut. You go to a tournament in Connecticut, maybe 2 guys have a bait caster on deck. And that'd be like one bait caster, and that was like a spinner bait because it's windy that day. Like you don't see a lot of bait casters up in the Northeast. It's always spinning gear. So that rod being a little bit out of the norm, it's kind of depressing he's not making it. But if you guys out there, you see one on eBay, BBC, some used forum on some other website, and you see one, grab one. Don't think twice. Or if you don't want it, DM me and I'll buy it. So that's it. That's my top 5. 734, 735, DX 744, DC 765 Flip, and the DX 704 SF.
Nice. So you talked about that 766. I bought that from my dad, and he used to fish Falcon a lot. He loved that for flipping bushes, like 65, 80-pound braid, flipping bushes and Falcon. It's just an absolute meat stick. You talked about the 795. I like that for like punching, like ounce and up. I'll punch with the 795. It's also like my extra serious frog rod. Like if I'm really bombing it out there in some really heavy stuff, I'll throw a frog on the 795. And then Brian was in the chat. He reminded me that I definitely skipped one of my favorite rods. So, and it's a little bit biased this year because in preparation for Lake St. Clair, I've been forcing myself to basically fish offshore all spring and early summer, getting reps on live scope because that's what it's going to be. So, one of my true loves is skipping like a 3/8 ounce bass tech jig under a boat dock. And for me, I believe this rod actually is going away, so I'm a little bit sad about this. But the Champion Extreme 705C is my dock rod, and I put a Tatula SV on that, 22 pound sniper, 3/8 half ounce jig, speed crowd, mini scrub, and love that rod. Catch, behind the Fury with the Senko, that's probably my next most catching. Like I don't mind defaulting back to boat docks and getting after it with a jig. So that's definitely should have been in the top 5. It's a little recency bias in my top 5 with like maybe the chicken and the swim bait, but that should have been in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah. Like, I have a couple other rods I really like. I really love the 705 CB Fury. It's a great rod for square bills. Like
I honestly just bought one of those this year because I always had the Champ 705. That's a dynamite rod, but super fun to fish. Did really good square billing on the river with it. Like I'm excited to throw it more. Excited to throw maybe some 10-foot crankbaits on St. Clair, see how it does. Boat up on a 4-pound smallie, So
I fell in love with that rod. I'm a huge fan of the KVD 1.0s, and also past like 5-6 years since I've been doing a lot more tidal fishing. The Man's -1, and that rod, where others like that would be the same rating, whether it's a Dobbins rod or some other brand, you can't fling those baits that far. The 705 can, and
yeah, it slings at 1.5. I know that. The KVD 1.5, you just
you can definitely. That was also the first. I remember a tournament I had. I was throwing. I think I was throwing square bills on a 705, either 705 CB mod glass, and something happened where like the reel blew up. So I was like, damn. And I had the 705 rigged up, and this was around the time the original Tatula came out, like the first gen Tatula, and I had one on the Fury 705, and I was like, it was like my first Daiwa Tatula rod or Tatula reel, and I was like, I don't know what I have on tied on, but that is a comparable rod. Let me, I don't know. You're like having second thoughts because it's all about confidence, And I was like, screw it. I picked it up. I don't even know what line I had on it, and I transfer the square bill over, and I fling it out there, and it was blowing that day. Get like a 30-yard cast into the wind. I was like, okay, I fell in love with this reel, and the rod is great. So I was happy. But yeah, the 705 Fury CB is definitely a good rod.
I want to. I've not thrown a jerkbait on it, but I kind of want to try a jerkbait on it one of these days.
I like the kind of like the 1-2 punch with the 684, 685 CBs in the Champion line, and then I don't know, the 684. I don't think it works like the one, like throwing a small like pointer or
Junior.
Stacy. like some of those they work fine with that rod, but like I don't feel like I work a 110 as well, especially like when you get up to like a 110 plus one. And then I know a lot of guys local love the 704 CB. I haven't really
That's been my main jerkbait rod, and then I started liking the 705 X Champion CB. So I was like, well, maybe I'll try the Fury and see if I like that as well.
Yeah, the Champion is definitely a staple. The 704. There's that other rod too. I like the 6'8" or shorter. If he made a 6-foot CB, I'd probably buy it for the for jerkbaits because I'm be hitting the water. I don't know. You're probably taller than me. 7-foot rods.
Yeah,
Smack in the
yeah,
smack the top.
yeah. 7 foot works for me, but I can, it's not for everybody.
Gotcha. DC 704 CB KD 610-4 is also a fun rod. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot he did 10 Caden.
one of my team partners has got the 610 Caden rod. He says it's good so far.
So yeah, that's it. Any other rod recommendations out there?
It kind of reminded me talking about all these, like some of my best performing videos on YouTube are my rod arsenal videos that I did, and they were like 5 years old, and I need to refresh them. So it's like, man, I really need to redo those because I really enjoy talking about rod and reel setups, and a lot of people like watching those videos. So
Yeah, I would be interested in checking out a new one. I'm sure your line, your preferred line for different techniques has changed over the years, and some maybe gear ratios for different baits and presentations has changed. I know mine has.
yeah, the fact is that some of them disappeared. Like some of those, like there still would have been multiple savvies in my old arsenal video, which don't exist anymore. There was probably a coalition in that video somewhere.
That's like my the one rod that got away. I have a coalition, but I don't have a 734. I have a 734 in every in all the basically 724 ecstasy, 744, 734 Caden, 734 Sierra, Fury. I basically have one 734 from everything except I don't even know if there's one in Maverick. I don't have a Maverick. I don't have a Colt either. So Fury and up, I have a 734 for Savvy, Sierra, Fury, Champion.
I've heard good things about the 734 Colt. I've not fished it. I have two Colt panfish rods. That's my only Colts.
It's got a couple more Furies for guiding. 702, 703s, your recommendation. Yes, I've been getting was using my Cadence as my guide rods, and I don't want them getting banged up any more than they already are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Feel that?
Trey Harple does a lot of rod reviews and rod arsenal, rod and reel arsenal videos. He takes it like a little. I tweak all my reels. He takes it to another level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shout out Trey. He's a good people.
Trey's a good dude for sure.
Hey Jim, thanks for joining.
Yeah, what's up, Jim?
Yeah, Brian's yeah, Trey, he does reel tuning and stuff too, so you can send stuff into him. Yeah, you got to jump off soon.
Yeah.
I want to here. Let's leave it on something different for a change. Actually, I did this with one of the other guys that was on this year so far. So I only do these pre and post each BFL and the regional because this is about the All American. That's what I want to qualify for. That I really want to fish that tournament.
That is the tournament. So like me, I want to make a classic and I want to make an All American. Right now, I'm really focused on fishing the Opens and the Bass Nation. I did only 1 year was able to fish the whole season of a BFL in the Great Lakes, and I made the regional. I just didn't at that time in my life didn't have enough vacation time to go to the regional, but I love fishing the Great Lakes BFLs when I can, and that is on my list to get back into. And I think our new vacation policy at work may allow that a little bit. So I also have plans of getting my road to the All-American in the future as well. So I definitely can admire that and appreciate that because that is a tournament I would like to fish as well.
Yeah. The shout out Mike at Delaware Valley Tackle. We just fished the cash, and he's gonna bust my chops because shout out a competitor. Yeah, Mike, Delaware Valley Tackle. He does rod and reel repairs and maintenance and all that good stuff. He can get you whatever you need: Carbitex drag washers, ceramic bearings, etc. Oh, that's hilarious. No, yeah, no, I don't know. I fished the nation for a while, state teams and stuff. I don't. I was on the executive board. I have like some sour taste in my mouth over a couple things. Trying to make changes and get things implemented that never came to light, and it didn't work out, and they lost a lot of membership. I was trying to really help save the CBN like from losing. It was bleeding members, and thing was a lot of guys want to fish a trail. They don't want to fish the same lake over and over and over again. They want to fish a trail, and everybody left, including me. I'm fishing a trail. Two BFLs and Toyotas. But the BFL would be the equivalent of doing the nation, I guess.
Sure.
And I started the BFLs when it was FLW, but the with just fishing the same lake over and over and over and over again is aggravating. It's like, look, we have 7 or 8 lakes in Connecticut. We used to travel to the Hudson, the Hudson River, Champlain, lakes in Massachusetts we could fish. You know, like there's other places. Like we don't have to just fish Candlewood every day of the week. It's redundant, and guys wanted variety, and I pushed for a trail and restructuring the trail. They didn't want it, and we lost more members. So everybody went to fish TBF. There's another thing, any Bassin, New England Bassin, ABAs, BFLs, etc. So I don't know. I'm no longer in the Bass Nation. Shout out to all my friends over there, but the BFLs and the All American is like, I think everybody watching, everybody listening to this later on can agree with me. For the longest time, in the level of ranking in prestigiousness, it was a Classic, the FLW Cup, and the All American, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, maybe the U.S. Open, somewhere right in that, right around the, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely top 5. I don't think you can argue that it's not in the top 5 most prestigious.
Yeah. Well, the U.S. Open is like, that's more West Coast, you know. So,
but there's some lore there, right? Like Rick Clunn and Aaron Martins, and I mean, so yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you could, they're in the conversation, right? Like, exactly. I don't know what number 5 would be, but yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. That was my point. Like for my region, that would be the top 3. Like those are the 3 most prestigious. Like if you qualify for one of those, we've had a few guys from Connecticut make it to the Classics. You know, Brian Kirchhoff, RIP, Paul Mueller. You got Weatherall crushing it on the.
I fished against Paul when he won on the Watchtower River in the Bass Nation. I was in that tournament.
That's awesome. Yeah. But no, I don't know. The All American, I think because it's so difficult to make it to it, that's why I want to do it, because it's like really, really tough. Like it's all local hammers you're competing against on a regional basis. It's tough. I know that you could take a little bit of an easier route, and per se, I guess that's what people. I don't fish the TBF, but people state that going the TBF route is easier, less expensive too, based on traveling, because you only have to fish. If you're in Connecticut, you only have to fish 2 out-of-state tournaments. You know, like so for cheaper standpoint, you know, cost, it'll definitely be a lot manageable for people. But the BFLs is nothing to sneeze at, and it's we got a lot of hammers in the Northeast. A lot of guys that made it to the All American. from my area, and they're all hammers. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough. I don't know. And I was so close too, because like last year I started this podcast. The year before, I was in like 21st place or something like that on the James River in the regional, and on day one, day two I ran back to the chick, and we had fog delays both days. The first flight and the ride back, my boat died. I had a motor issue, and I didn't have 5 fish, but I had 4, but they were 4 the right ones. After the fact, I didn't weigh, tried flagging some boats down. I don't know what their times were and everything. Not going to get into that, but had 4 fish in the box that I had to put back. There's some state park I pulled up to. After the fact, plus or minus an ounce or 2 from my scale to the tournament scale, I would have been 6th or 7th place going into day 3. So I was really, really close. So
Yeah, that sucks. That's a tough one.
It stung, and so I got a little redemption. This year, regional is going to be on Kerr. I've never been there. I think people call it Bugs Island.
Yep.
Really look forward to that. Maybe I'll get to see Brian Carter. Shout out basscast.com. Maybe I'll see him down there. But yeah, so your goal is the classic, and
Yeah.
after that, you'll probably be on the
Yeah.
Elite
It'll start
Series. So you
I don't
don't have to go.
know. You know, I used to have dreams about fishing the Elite Series. I've cooled my jets on that. Like, I don't know. There's a bunch of monsters out there now, and I don't know. That seems like a tough road to hoe. You really got to be all in. So, but I'm still pretty mad at them. But I think a classic would be pretty cool. There's only like 400 anglers that have ever fished a classic, something like that. So, and a BFL American and a classic appearance, both pretty high on my list.
So you'd have to do the regional qualifier to a national, and that would be a berth or win an open.
Yeah, so win an open, and then so I'm already qualified. I already fished the qualifier, so I'm already going to the national Grand Lake this fall. So I would have to finish the top 3 at Grand Lake or win one of these 3 opens. So I got 4 chances, 4 swings this year. If I can win one of the 3 or top 3 in the last one for the classic. So
That's going to be awesome. I hope you pull it off.
and it'll all be on the YouTube channel, the hell of that. So if you want to follow along, so
Yeah, guys, if you're a follower of mine and you're not sure who this guy is, he's a hammer. Just let's leave it at that. Real quick, Jim G. Lopez wants me to talk about my electric setup.
cool. You know what? I got to go be a dad, so I'm going to drop off, and you can talk electronics and wrap things up. Appreciate everybody that was on tonight, all the questions. I'll probably see some of you later tonight. Appreciate the invite, Dave, and we'll chat soon.
Hey, Rich, definitely. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And once I finish up here, I'll hop over to your podcast.
Yes, later. That's a couple hours away. But and if anybody has any questions that we didn't answer, slide into my DMs. Happy to answer them.
So
Thanks, everybody.
Was it 8:30?
8:30 Central.
Oh, okay.
9:30 Devil's time.
Gotcha. All right, brother.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Hey, Jim, real quick. Now I'm gonna hop off of here. So I'm running Line Energy UT 1300s. I have 3 of them powering the trolling motor, and I'm running the Safari. It's a solar generator, and I can charge my batteries with the sorry. Gotcha. Yeah, thanks again, Rich. Now I can charge the batteries with the generator. The generator can be recharged 2 different ways, either through solar, it comes with solar panels, or by plugging it into an outlet. Takes an hour or so to top off, and then you're good to go. And it's good to have as a contingency plan when you're on the road. Here at Days Inn in Brewerton, New York, and the outlets outside don't want to put out enough power to top off boats, and especially when you have like 10, 15 guys here all trying to get power. So having the contingency plan is great. I could take the Safari, if I want to keep it in my truck, I could bring it in the hotel room, plug it in, let top off while I'm out on the water. Then when I get back, I could bring it out, put it in the truck, run an extension cord from the truck to the boat, and I'm good to go. All right, guys, that was the episode 17, Road All American. I'll see you guys on Saturday. I'll have Gary Dobbins on, and this will be on Spotify in the next couple days. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks, guys. Later.